Edward Cabrera is the biggest trade chip that the Marlins have at this year's deadline. The Cubs, the Mets, and the Red Sox all are potential fits, and I'm going to talk about the prospects that the Marlins could ask for return.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been a diehard Marlins fan since I was 12 years old, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And on today's show, I'm going to talk about a few potential fits for Edward Cabrera in particular. He's having a career season. His trade value is at its highest it's ever been, and the Marlins could capitalize in just a week. The trade deadline is a week away, and the rumors are going to be flying. The teams that I really want to see Cabrera get traded to, because I really love the farm systems, are the Cubs, the Mets, or the Red Sox. And I know some people are going to bristle at the fact that I said the Mets because they're a division rival, but I'm going to talk about a couple of prospects from the Mets in particular that it would be really hard to say no if you're the Marlins. I'm also going to talk about Sandy Alcantara. The trade rumors will be flying for him as well, but just give some appreciation to what he's done throughout his Marlins career, and then take a look at the pressing needs that the Marlins have. There's still work to be done, and that is clear, and the Marlins are going to try to keep taking steps forward to get to where they want to be. Let's talk about Edward Cabrera possibly going to the Chicago Cubs. And this might be my favorite fit for any Marlins player because of how much I like the top half of the Cubs farm system. If you remember, Jesus Luzardo was almost going to be a Cub. A deal was almost finalized before things fell apart due to health concerns, and Luzardo eventually became a Philadelphia Philly in the Starlin Caba deal. You guys know how I feel about that. I did not like the trade. Hopefully it works out and Caba, hits to his potential and becomes an above average shortstop offensively as well as defensively, but he's still such a ways away. And the value for Jesus Luzardo at the time was at its lowest it was ever. I mean, Luzardo was coming off of an injury. This is different. Edward Cabrera is having a breakthrough season, and his trade value is peaking. Cabrera has a 3.48 ERA across 17 starts, 88 innings, 92 strikeouts. The stuff is electric. You watch him pitch, you don't need me to tell you just how good he is. And the turnaround from years past, especially when it comes to the command. I just love the fact that Edward Cabrera has figured out how to command his pitches. Last 3 starts, he hasn't walked anybody. And teams are noticing that. And a team in particular that should notice that and take advantage is the Cubs. The Cubs should absolutely be calling up Peter Bendix and the Marlins to make a serious offer. And I put together another mock trade regarding the Cubs, a little bit different than the last one I did from a couple shows ago, but it is more of the same. 2 of the prospects stay the same, 1 changed. And that's Owen Casey, Jackson Wiggins, and the new addition is Jonathan Long. Now, when I look at the Cubs system, the 2 prospects that stand out to me the most is Owen Casey and Jackson Wiggins. I love Jackson Wiggins as a pitcher. I know he's a little bit further away from the major leagues because he's only in Double-A, but Owen Casey is ready right now. Owen Casey has already surpassed his home run total from a season ago. Last year, he hit 19. This season, he's already hit 20. He's a power bat. And the Marlins, you see the additions that they made last year, getting Kyle Stowers, getting Augustine Ramirez, getting guys that can provide that slug. Owen Casey would be in the major leagues playing every day for the Marlins, and he would have a chance to really prove himself as a legit cornerstone player for the Marlins. The Cubs would get a huge boost to their rotation with Edward Cabrera, and the Marlins get Casey, they get Jackson Wiggins, and Jonathan Long, who is a first base, third base kind of profile, isn't especially great at defense, but has a really good bat. He's got 15 bombs and hitting .315 in AAA. So he's right there, if not major league ready, to make an impact, certainly in 2026. And that could be who the Marlins, want to put at first base. Is it an expensive price for the Cubs? Yes. And if push comes to shove and they really don't want to pay that much, then you either hold Cabrera or you incentivize it by throwing them Anthony Bender or another bullpen arm. But that's the type of overpay. That's the type of prospect package that I want to see the Marlins obtain this deadline. The second team I want to talk about is the New York Mets. Division rival. I don't like the Mets. You shouldn't like the Mets. But there's a couple prospects that I just really want to see in the Marlins system. And this is really expensive from the Mets perspective. But it's Jonah Tong and Carson Bench. Those two guys, any combination, if you can get one of them at least, then you got to consider an Edward Cabrera deal. And there's obviously going to be moving parts to this deal. There's going to be back-end pieces that the Mets could offer. I don't expect the Mets to offer both Tong and Benj, but hey, I'd love to have both of them. Benj is somebody I wanted the Marlins to draft a season ago. He was right up there as my number one draft choice for the Marlins at pick number 16. They went underslot and got Orlando. And Jonah Tong, how could you not like Jonah Tong as a prospect? He's in Double-A. He's got just a really good arm, and he's putting up really good results as well. Jonah Tong this season, he's 22 years old. He has a 1.71 ERA in Binghamton. That's the Double-A affiliate for the Mets. You can see the sky-high potential for Jonah. And the Marlins develop pitching so well. He would slot right into the Marlins farm system, either start at Double-A, Triple-A, and you could see him theoretically in 2026. Close to major league ready is the profile I want to see the Marlins go after this deadline. I know in the last episode, I put together a deal with the Padres, and I was talking to some people, and it felt a little bit light. So in this show, I'm going for what I really want, and that's top-end prospects, the best of the best. Both those guys, Carson Bench and Jonah Tong, top 100 prospects. Let's go to the Red Sox. What could the Red Sox possibly do to try to get Cabrera on their team? Because arguably they need him more than anybody else. The Red Sox, if you look at their roster, they got Garrett Crochet, they got an absolute ace in their rotation, but they've traded away Devers. They're not out of it. They're still in the middle of contention, and it's such a big market team. I expect them to go out and get pitching help because besides Garrett Crochet, they really don't have a ton. And one of the prospects I'd love to see the Marlins go after is the password. I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but it's Jongston Garcia. That's absolutely butchered, but that's how hard it is to read. It's spelled really, really funny, but Garcia, the password, that's his nickname. He's a beast. He is an absolute beast. This season, across Double-A and Triple-A, he's hitting .282 with 14 bombs. The power is there. The raw power especially is there. He's already on Boston's 40-man roster. So from the Marlins perspective, that's somebody that you can get, maybe keep the rest of the season in the minors. If not, plug and play him right now because he's right there at being a major league ready prospect. Sandy Alcantara recently just had his best start of the season. It was 7 innings, 1 unearned run against the Padres, didn't walk anyone. It was classic Sandy. And I want to take some time to appreciate what Sandy has done in his career. If this is, in fact, the last time we saw him pitch at Lone Depot Park in a Marlins uniform. That's coming up right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue, and so is this hat that I'm wearing. For Marlins fans like me, this one hits the mark. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every professional and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile styles that work on game day, on the golf course, or anywhere in between. The gear is subtle, stylish, and you can still rep your team. The hat pairs perfectly with Marlins gear. It doesn't replace the Marlins logo stuff, but it adds to the lineup. And it's perfect for going out, repping the Marlins on the golf course with their team colors, or in my case, Top Golf, because I'm a terrible golfer. I play baseball. I can't figure out the golf swing, but you get the idea. And it's not just hats. Check out their split shade gloves. They got perfect golf gloves for a gift for a family member that likes golfing, or a treat for yourself if you just want to get out on the golf course. So right now you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. I appreciate all the everyday listeners that watch and listen to Locked On Marlins Monday through Friday. This is your place to be. And I want to take some time to just appreciate what Sandy Alcantara has done for the Marlins. The type of person and pitcher he is. I know he hasn't had the best season. And I've talked about it on the show. He hasn't been Sandy. But the last start, and what might be, if he's traded, his last start ever in a Marlins uniform at home was great. 7 innings against the Padres. First time he'd completed 7 innings. He had no earned runs. There was one unearned run, but he ended up getting the win. And it just reminded me so much of that 2022 season and how magical that 2022 season was, in which he was the National League Cy Young winner. Sandy came over from the St. Louis Cardinals not a couple years ago, a long time ago. If you really think about it, he's been here for a minute since 2018. He's been a Miami Marlin. 2018. Right after the 2017 season is when the Marcell Ozuna trade, and he's been here. He's seen 2 rebuilds. He's seen 2 playoff appearances, including the COVID season, including the 2023 season, in which the Marlins went on this awesome, memory-filled run to the playoffs, and he didn't get to pitch in the playoffs because that is when the elbow injury occurred. He was shut down and ended up undergoing Tommy John surgery. But he's been the definition of a workhorse. That's why we call him El Caballo, because every 5th day, Sandy was going out there and he was giving it his all. There was no complaining. There was no babying Sandy Alcantara. You remember that start during his Cy Young season in which they were at St. Louis and he ran into a little bit of trouble in the 9th inning, and Donnie Mattingly came out and Sandy said, "No, go away. I'm finishing what I started." And that's Alcantara, man. That is classic Sandy. He is a fan favorite. And if the Marlins trade him, which they could, it's right now it's 50-50. Especially with this final start, teams are going to look and say, there's still value in there. There's still that Cy Young caliber pitcher in there. And we want him for the postseason because he has more control left. He's not just a rental. The rumors coming into this season, they were through the roof. Every article you read about the Marlins was Sandy Alcantara returning from Tommy John surgery. Will he, could he, when will he be traded? And at this point, I don't know if he is. I've said publicly on the show I don't think he should be because I don't want the Marlins to settle for any trade package surrounding their franchise pitcher. But it could happen, and that's a possibility. I'm not going to sit here and say definitively whether it will or it won't because I don't know. But I do know that what he's done for the Marlins and what he's done for the fan base. You had Sandy's Beach, that section in Lone Depot Park where everybody was for Sandy Alcantara. That Cy Young season where even in the middle of a losing year for the Marlins, there was something that special to hang on to and to hang your hat on if you were a Marlins fan. Alcantara is one of my favorite Marlins of all time. I've watched this team since 2014. Giancarlo Stanton is my favorite Marlin of all time. Sandy Alcantara is right up there with him. And if that was his last start at Lone Depot, then I just want to say thank you. I just want to let everybody know how special and how memorable his time as a Marlin was. The fact that, he took a deal and it was a very team-friendly deal. He could have waited. He could have got more money, but he didn't. He's a Marlin, and he's always going to be a Marlin for life. And whatever happens this trade deadline, I'm appreciative of all the memories. As Marlins fans, we don't necessarily have a ton of postseason success to brag about or to talk about with other fans. Yeah, we have the 2 World Series, but for the younger generation of fans, watching a pitcher like Sandy Alcantara become who he was as a Marlin. I know he started in St. Louis, but Sandy's a Marlin. That's our guy. It was awesome. And that's something that you always will carry with you. And the fan base, every single one of us should root for Sandy, whether he's traded or whether he stays the rest of the season. Whatever happens, always root for this guy. That is the type of person that you want in your clubhouse, the type of leader that you want leading your pitching staff. He's had a frustrating year, and sometimes adversity happens, and it's the way you battle through it. Because when I watched Sandy pitch, it was a routine. It was him doing his job. Even when it wasn't working, he stayed calm. He stayed the course. Yes, he was frustrated, but on the mound, he's the ultimate professional. The Marlins will have to decide whether to trade him or not, and they have a lot of decisions. And coming up next, I'm going to talk about the most pressing needs for the Marlins for the rest of this season and also looking ahead to the future. Because I think this team is closer than the majority of the baseball world realizes. This team is competitive, and they're going to hopefully compete in 2026, but they have needs to fill. That's coming up right after this. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you ever wish that you had all your accounts and all your spending in one place, Monarch Money solves that. There's no complications. Everything is simple on one easy app. And if you look at your spending and you realize, hey, I'm spending a lot on some Marlins merchandise, I need to budget smarter, Monarch Money is going to help you. And they understand how fast finances can add up and you're going to budget smarter, you're going to save more, it's going to be great. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Half off, guys. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off your first year. Locked On Marlins is on all the major podcast platforms. So if you're on the go, you're driving your car, you're at the gym, you can still stay in tune with the show. The Marlins have work to do. That's as simple as I can say it. Yes, they're having a fun year. Yes, they're competitive. Yes, there's even talk of buying at the trade deadline, which I'm not for going all in and being buyers. I don't think that's the prudent and wise decision. But you can look at this team and see a plan in place. You can look at them and say, over the next couple of months, we're going to learn a lot about this team's future. And it starts with a couple of prospects. Jacob Marcy has just had an awesome year. Somebody that I had doubts about when we acquired him last year from the Padres, he's broken all doubt for me. I'm locked in on Jacob Marcy. I think he's the real deal. And if Jesus Sanchez gets traded, which I think he will be, I think Sanchez is as good as gone at the trade deadline. Some team is going to make an offer and get Sanchez. Jacob Marcy could take his spot in the outfield from day one. Day after the trade, Marcy is starting in right field. He has speed. He has power. He's hit 13 homers this season. It surpassed his total from last year. A lot like that guy I mentioned earlier, Owen Casey. But he's got elite defense, elite speed. He's a great base runner. And the hit tool has taken a step forward. He's hitting .252 this season. And last year, he was hovering, low 200s. He was walking a lot, but there was some concern on my end with the contact skills, with the bat to ball, just getting base hits and keeping that average afloat. And Marcy, I'm really excited to watch whenever he makes his major league debut. The other player I'm excited to see, and this might be 2026, and it could be September, and that's Joe Mack. Joe Mack's the real deal. Joe Mack, I view as the catcher of the future. I think Agustin Ramirez, the experiment, is eventually going to end, and he's going to become a full-time DH, and also first base is an option as well. But there's no question that Joe Mack's defense, to go with his bat, makes him one of the Marlins' top prospects. And I would argue the second prospect in the Marlins system right now behind Thomas White. I think the excitement level that Joe Mack would bring to the catching position is, and the potential that he brings, is something that we haven't seen since JT Realmuto. I mean, we've seen a lot of catchers come and go, and nobody has panned out. Nobody has the talent that Joe Mack is going to provide at the catcher position. Of course, Agustin Ramirez is catching, and his bat is awesome. He's a must-watch at bat anytime he swings, anytime he's up to the plate. But Mack provides that defense that Ramirez doesn't. Mack is going to stick at the catcher position. But when you look also at the rest of the roster, and those two prospects I'm super stoked for. Thomas White, of course, is another who I think debuts in 2026. I don't have him as early as September, like I see Marcy and Mack possibly making their debuts. I think you take your time with Thomas White. He's still in Double-A. He's just been there for a few starts. But 2026, Mack, Yuri Perez. I mean, if Robbie Snelling makes his debut, those are exciting young pitchers. And I'm telling you, Miami is a pitching factory. They know what they're doing when it comes to developing pitchers, even at the big league level. Look at Jansen Junk, somebody that I didn't even know existed and is one of the best command artists in the game. He's awesome. Edward Cabrera, the turnaround. I discussed how many teams wanted Cabrera, and should make competitive offers for Cabrera, he's made a turnaround. So there hasn't been a drop off in pitching development from, Mel Stottlemyre Jr. and the Kim Ng days to Peter Bendix and the Daniel Moskos, Bill Hazel days. It's going really well, and I'm stoked. I can't wait for the future of this team. But there's still room to get talent. I think the Marlins, what's really holding them back is a couple of positions, third base and first base in particular. Connor Norby's disappointed this season. I had really high expectations for him. He took a serious step back in terms of offensive production. The defense isn't there as well. And objectively, there's got to be questions heading into next year whether he's the long-term answer at third. First base, you started with Matt Mervis. Now you have Liam Hicks and Eric Wagaman. The Wagaman experiment isn't working. Liam Hicks isn't a true first baseman. So they got to address that. Does Davison De Los Santos have a future on this team? They're going to give him every opportunity to do so. But at this deadline, I want them to really go after high upside talent. Talent. First base, third base, those are holes. Catcher, I think, is good. The future is good with Joe Mack. You have Liam Hicks there too. The outfield, Griffin Conine, I can't wait to see him play a full season. He looked really good for the first month of the year. Kyle Stowers is an all-star and maybe an MVP candidate this year. Stowers is part of the future. The Marlins are closer than you think. And so that's why I say the pressing needs for the Marlins at hand is just talent. It's just getting guys in here, in the system, that are close to the major leagues, that can be developed, and that provide serious impact, especially at those corner spots. The other area of concern that I have for the Marlins organization as a whole is shortstop. And that's not on Otto Lopez. It's just the organizational depth behind Otto. Max Acosta has had a subpar season, a disappointing season. Jared Cerna, very disappointing offensively. He was one of my favorite prospects that we acquired last year. Just hasn't shown up in 25. Starlin Caba is years away. Andrew Salas, years away. Do the Marlins look at Otto Lopez for the long term, and we're looking at an Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards middle infield for years to come? Because the alternative is Otto Lopez continues this trajectory of being a very, very good shortstop with power, with contact skills. There's a scenario that next season, if the Marlins have a shortstop that they get at the deadline, that Otto Lopez is expendable. I'm just throwing that out there. It's not anything to go to, advocating, unseat Otto, he can't be part of the future. But the way I look at it is if you get somebody that inevitably is more talented and better than Otto Lopez offensively, then Otto Lopez you trade. And it is like the Rays cycle, and I don't like that. But with that position in particular, same with Xavier Edwards, I think there's a real path for that one day happening, where the Marlins, it's a feeder system. It's a cycle. And what I don't want to see, though, is the Marlins not commit to anybody long term. For example, Kyle Stowers. Kyle Stowers is here till 2030. Don't trade him once he hits ARB. Pay the money. Pay the ARB. You don't have to extend him, but pay the man his due. Agustin Ramirez and Yuri Perez should be extended. So the pressing need of this organization is get talent and also make a statement with your wallet this offseason. Make a statement at the deadline by making smart trades that are going to help you for the immediate future and help this team contend in 2026. It's exciting. We're a week away from the deadline. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot to think about. And I can't wait to see what ends up happening. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.